Hello everyone and welcome back to the Battlefield Siege Run here. We have another video for you. This is a little bit different. This video is going to be more my ideas of what Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle looks like for Pauper, my kind of design process and what decks I think might be good and what I want to play in the format and see if I can get some W's with. So today I just want to take you through my top picks for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and then also the deck list that I'm also kind of looking at. So please feel free in the comments to chat through these decks with me and see what you reckon and what additions you would add to it to make it a little bit better. Most of these additions and cards that I'm looking at is normally based around the kind of style that I like to play. So you would know if you follow this channel that I play a lot of mono white aggro lists, but also a lot of other decks that are creature based. You know, I do love my refurbished familiars. I love my Glint Hawks. So these are decks that I like to play. So hopefully you like these decks as well. And if you like these decks, that means you play them and you might have some ideas. So chuck them in the comments. If you do like these videos, please feel free to like and subscribe. I haven't really done this thing before, so if you do like this style, please let me know as well. And I'm happy to do other ones when the sets drop as the future gets closer and closer. Anyway, this is probably going to be released when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pre-release happens. So hopefully this helps you with picking up those commons for the Pauper tournaments coming up. All right, without further ado, let's just start off with something that is probably a no-brainer anyway. But this card is Leonardo Big Brother. Now, when I look at cards, I generally like to think about what are we getting out of the card that we want? Can it go into an already established deck or does it actually create a new archetype or anything like that? When I look at Leonardo, yes, it has Sneak, which is a very powerful mechanic and is similar to Web Slinging. So it's essentially being able to cheat out a card a little bit cheaper with a drawback. But normally in Pauper, with the cards that we have, we are using bounce effects like Glint Hawk. Again, Glint Hawk's meant to be a downside, but we can actually use it to make it an upside. This is what Leonardo can kind of do as well. So Sneak is a big win. We already know mono white. We want things that we can bounce like Inspectors and stuff like that. Can this card get any better? Well, yes, it can. Its other ability is very similar to a card like Bunicorn. So that's also what I like to look at is, yes, they sometimes downshift cards, but also Pauper cards can have very similar abilities to other spells out there. So Bunicorn is like a small creature, it's 2 mana, but it gets +X equals the amount of creatures you control. So it obviously has a bit of a bigger butt, unlike Leonardo. But the fact that this is on a common card is actually pretty crazy. And obviously it's a legendary creature, so we can't run as many. But I feel like it can fix some issues with White Weenie, because White Weenie is very typically a go wide deck. So Leonardo is a way to actually go tall, for an instance. And when you think about it, if you sometimes do the full swing out and they do their blocks, if you just nick in Leonardo and you've got like 6 creatures, suddenly Leonardo's coming in for 7 damage and that can just close out the game out of nowhere. So I'm very keen to try out this card. So let's go through a couple deck lists that I'm really keen to try this out. So again, thinking about the Sneak mechanic and also its second ability, Leonardo. So really 1 mana 1/3 is pretty cracked. Alright, so hopping over to mono white. So generally what I'm thinking about with this version is that there are those 2 kind of versions that kick around. You have the Salt Road Pack Beast list and then you have the Militia Bugler list. Militia Bugler is kind of the tried and true version. Bugler is very good, it does lots of value, but based on Leonardo's ability, we actually want to go wider, so then Leonardo can go taller. And this is also linked back to similar things with Luxknight Breacher, which is a card that I have played a fair bit of, and I was very keen on, but kind of fell out of favor. So I'll get to that in a minute, but let's just go through the standard mono white list. So Leonardo, based on what I want it to do, fits in a better go wide shell. So I do want to run Salt Road Pack Beast, and you could even actually run this in decks with I forget the card, but the Convoke, the 2 and a white Convoke, where it gets counters if you don't have any untapped lands. That could be a place where this goes because you're going to go a lot more wider with that version. But I like this because it still has a fair bit of value. We're actually running an extra 1-drop as opposed to other White Weenie lists. We're running the Steadfast Unicorn. So we have this go wide shell, still with the bunch of Guardians Pledges, the Battle Screeches. But now we've got 4, 8, 12, 13 1-drops. So we have a higher threshold of being able to play Leonardo on turn 2. But also still have that background of Raffine's Informant into the classic Battle Screech or something like that. So this might work pretty well with Leonardo. I think it is going to be a bit of a bolt magnet because it is a X3. But I like the idea of being able to go wide and then play Pack Beast and then also sneak in with extra damage with this. I feel like this can get pretty crazy with even attacking with the Pack Beast. Sometimes people might not want to block it. You can sneak, return the Pack Beast, play it again, draw a card. And they might block Leonardo, but you've essentially drawn a card off it for 2 mana. It's like an Elvish Visionary, but you attack with way more damage. So it's quite an interesting card. I think it's going to be quite good. The sideboard I haven't touched too much. I think really I just wanted to focus on like Great Sword of Tear might be good with with the new card, Leonardo. But outside of that, I think Sunlance, just ways to kind of keep the board clear. I want to keep the Dust and Dust because I feel like there's going to be a lot of artifact decks after this set drops, because you'll see at the end of this, but I have some Affinity builds that I was quite interested in as well. So that's Mono White. Let me know what you think about that. The second list I've been cooking on as well is the Luxknight Breacher build. So this deck and Luxknight Breacher, we went through a fair few iterations, and they were pretty fun to play, but essentially you could play a giant Luxknight Breacher, and then you have this giant go-tool creature that you could then Wedding Invitation and then give it unblockable and just get in. So this is the same kind of thing I kind of want to do with this. So we're still running things like the Inspectors. Rafine's Inform is good for cycling, but we are just running these Springleaf Drums and stuff like that, just to drop everything a little bit quicker. And Core Skyfisher as well, just a bit of evasion to then get in with like the Leonardo Big Brother or something like that. So essentially we have this engine with the Inspectors, so we can use the Leonardo or Core Skyfisher, and then we also have the Wedding Invitation we can bounce with the Core Skyfisher to draw cards to get closer to these two, and then hopefully get in with either Guardian's Pledge, or these can just finish the job as unblockable with Invitation. So other things that I am running is just like Ancient Dens and Citadels for the Luxknight Breacher, but also, I think the Leonardo will just sit at 2 right now. It could go to 3, but I just have to look at how that looks in future builds. Cyber-wise, it's way more straightforward than the previous one. We're less looking at more keeping the board clear because we've got the unblockable stuff in Wedding Invitation. So it's just more clean builds. So things that answer like Elves, Lone Missionary for burn, and again we could probably run like a Spirit Link if we want now, because we're running those cards, stuff like Relic of Progenitors, Shift Graveyards, Prismatic Strands. I just wanted to try 2 out, and just want to Destroy Evil just to help with terror or something like that, because sometimes just Sleep of the Dread or something, the one where they escape it and then they can keep tapping down creatures, which is probably what this is not too good against. We've got the Strands and the Destroy Evils, which is good for that. So this is the next kind of iteration for Leonardo. So tell me what you think about that one. We are going to move on to the next card that I'm interested in. So this card is Mouser Foundry. So this card is very similar to the Experimental Synthesizers. So Mouser has that same kind of style. It's like Moxite as well. When it enters or when it leaves, it does something. So this is just kind of like another iteration of that, except this one, it makes 1/1 colors robot artifacts. So when it enters, it makes 1/1. When it leaves, it makes a 1/1. So we're kind of, when I look at this card, I'm kind of keen to try it in like a Boros Synth list. It's definitely not cutting Experimental Synthesizer. I guess that's the thing when people were thinking with Boros Synth, you had Moxite and then you had Experimental Synthesizer. I think Synthesizer's absolutely cracked. So that's the best version of all these cards. But some people are using Moxite with Sneaky Snacker, which we've also tried before as well. But I think this card needs to be run alongside the Synthesizer. So you can just churn all these out and then use cards like Makeshift Munitions or something like that to essentially just machine gun your opponent with Mouser. So you can play Mouser, get a 1/1, you can Munitions, sacrifice the 1/1, deal 1, sacrifice the Mouser Foundry, do another 1, you get another 1/1, deal 1, so on and so forth. I was thinking you could run this in like a Jeskai Synthesizer list with Cryogen Relic and maybe like Ghostly Flicker could be good, because I feel like Cryogen Relic, the issue with Cryogen Relic was you were drawing so many cards, but you didn't really have anything on the battlefield that just kind of kept building on the battlefield or getting blocks. Like if you're drawing so many cards with Cryogen Relic, you have like 10 cards in hand but like nothing else to show for it. And if you're playing against a fast deck, that really does matter. So I think this is a pretty cool card, and the fact that it has its secret mode of sacrificing the artifact and dealing 3 damage to a target creature is kind of good as well. It's kind of similar to like a Resolute Reinforcements with suddenly an ability that you can just deal 3 damage as well. Kind of like Raise the Alarm, I guess. So how I kind of looked at that in a Boros build is I kept the similar creatures. I did cut down on Inspectors because we're gumming up the board in a different way. Still running that one Dawnbringer Cleric because I do like that extra bit of versatility. We're keeping all the removal spells. You'll notice that they're 1/1 robot artifacts. So the Galvanic Blast is still quite powerful, and we could probably even cut down on the Thraben Charms if we want to do, because the burn spells are probably enough. But you do want a way to kind of handle Wrathing Chrysalis in game 1. So anyway, as you can see, I'm running 4 Synthesizer and then 4 Foundry. So not a lot of big changes. I guess what we could do as well is we could cut down like one Thraben Charm and just go up on our munitions, because I feel like the munitions gets a little bit better with everything. And we're running the 2 relics as well, which can kind of feel a bit funny in the main deck, but it's quite powerful in those matchups that matter. And yeah, because we've got those 2 Journey to Nowheres as well, it can be pretty good. So that's what I was kind of thinking with that. I don't think it really changes much else. Like, I've been running Lumi Thread and stuff like that for the creatures. You could probably cut this and probably go up on stuff like Electricity for those faster decks. We've got the Navigator's Compass, which probably could be Restful the Wary, I guess. We'll put that in now as well. Which is just a very powerful card anyway. So I'll just pull that one up and put it into the sideboard wherever you want to be. There you are. So this card's absolutely cracked. So we'll move to the sideboard. And this just helps with burn. I think it's probably one of the best ways to survive against burn. Sometimes I feel like Navigator's Compass can be a bit of a, oh, how should I put it? Like a bit of a trap. It can sometimes be good, but like I feel like the blinking effect should be left for the value. And I feel like really, if you want Leica and you want something that just gets the job done, and Restful the Wary kind of does that. We just got up to 4 Dust to Dust because, like I said, I feel like the meta we're going into might be a lot more Affinity. And I'll show you why. This is my kind of segue. So I'm going to introduce 2 more cards to you that I'm interested in. The first one is Oruku Saki, so Shredder Rising. So someone mentioned this in the comments as well, asking my advice. This card, I think, is absolutely cracked. It's very good. I guess the issues with it, though, is that it's very similar to Ninja of the Deep Hours. And I would say Ninja of the Deep Hours is a better card. 2/2 is a lot better than a 3/1 in my eyes in Pauper. When you look at the kind of cards that will be blocking this, it feels really bad if this gets blocked by a Novice Inspector or, Thraben Inspector or whatever, or, just something like a Vodaran Epicure. So you want to slot this into a deck that can either keep everything pretty clear or just adds on the extra effect of ninjas. So, the Moonlight Hacker is a good instance. That's a 2/1 and it draws a card. At least this is a little bit more powerful and you can keep drawing cards rather than cycling after that. So the other thing is, I guess, that's pretty relevant with this card is that it is just a similar sneak to the ninjutsu of that first ninja, but also it's a little bit cheaper to cast as well. But I guess the main thing as well is that it's a legendary, so you don't want too many in your deck. A bit similar to like Leonardo and stuff like that. So I'm probably looking at running 2 in a deck just to see how it feels. The next card I want to look at, and the reason I'm looking at these 2 straight off the bat is because the next 2 lists, you can see on my screen anyway, Esper Affinity and Dimir Affinity is running kind of both of them anyway. But Utrom Monitor is an absolutely cracked card. So I had it up in my Scryfall before when I was looking, but it's Affinity for Artifacts, which if you've been playing Paul for a good while, is a pretty cracked ability. They banned other things with Affinity for Artifacts in the past. The difference with this is slightly more pushed. So again, I'm comparing this to other cards, but the other cards is, I can't remember the exact name of it, but there is a card that's a 5 and a blue, so it's 1 extra mana. Affinity for Artifacts, but it's a 3/2 with flying. So this is 1 less, and it's a 3/3, so that's pretty huge. And the other one is that Steel Whale that absolutely does my head in. That's also 6 mana, so a 5 and a blue, and it's a 3/4. But it doesn't have evasion, it doesn't have flying, it just has the untap effect. So this card is a really good rate, the best rate so far for a 3/3, and I think that really fits into like a Delver slot if you can quite easily get the 4 artifacts in play to then play it. So this can quite easily come down on turn 2, which will be pretty good. When you're thinking about Delver decks, how they can play Delver on turn 1 and blind flip it, normally they're playing Delver on turn 2 and then flipping it for turn 3. So this card can quite easily come down on turn 2 for Affinity builds. So let's look at the 2 lists that I'm thinking of here. So the first one is the Esper Affinity list, the Esper like Ninjas Affinity list. So this list we've played before and we've also played against it as well. The issue with this deck that I found is it either draws one half of the deck or the other half of the deck. And that being is that you're drawing your draw engines of just the ninjas and then nothing else, or you're drawing your weird clunky spells. You're not drawing your Ornithopters with your Springleaf Drums. It gets a little bit awkward. What I'm hoping now with Oruku and the Ultra Monitor is with these extra cards, it actually builds on the consistency of the deck. So now we're running 10 ninjas as opposed to 8. So I still think Moon Circuit Hacker and Ninja of the Deep Hours is still better than Oruku. But I think now that having 10 ninjas and then ways to bounce the Refurbished Familiar, all the Novice Inspectors is quite good. And then also we're running a couple more of the Ultra Monitor, so building that consistency of sometimes you just need to double drop all these Mirror Forces. Now we've got the Ultra Monitors, so a bit more evasion, which is good. So we might even have things where we have this giant army of flyers. So Refurbished Familiar is still the best flyer because it does more things, but also now we have 6 flyers or 6 threats on the ground, or 6 affinity for X, whatever, to get the job done. So outside of that, I've just did a couple things. I just took away a Thraben Charm and a Metallic Rebuke because I want to be more proactive with the Ultra Monitor and the Ninja. I feel like we can do a lot more damage a lot quicker now and gum up the board a lot quicker, draw more cards, play more threats, which is what I think the deck wants to do. The artifact lands are all the same, so we're running all those, and the sideboard is much of a muchness. So Arms of Fadar is pretty good with the Affinity, the new Affinity card of Ultra Monitor. And then also still running a lot of the Hydro Blast, Dust to Dust, Fairy Macabre. You could probably cut something like the Fairy Macabre to just run the relics, but it's also nice just to have a little bit of proof against other people playing Dust to Dust. You could probably go up to the 4 Metallic Rebukes if you want, and then you can cut the other Affinity cards if need be. So that's kind of the first idea that I have with the Monitor and then Oruku. The other deck that I wanted to look at was actually Dimir Affinity. So I feel like now the deck doesn't need to run white. It just gets a little bit more awkward. So I did base this off the previous deck before, but what I'll probably say is what we want to do is we want to still run the ninjas. So we're going to run 10 ninjas, but we're going to go up to 4 Mirror Enforcers and 4 of these monitors. And then what we're actually going to do is go up on the 0 drops. So instead of the Novice Inspector splashing the white, we're just going to run more of the 0 drops. And this one can just attack. It can allow us to play Oruku pretty quickly, and also gets us up to our Affinity to then play the Mirror Forcer. So it's a great way to play Thoughtcast quickly. It's fodder for the Metallic Rebuke and Springleaf Drum, and I think it just makes this a lot faster. And you can see just dropping all these Enforcers, and then suddenly just cracking them for so much. You could probably also just attack with this, put a Ninja in, and then replay it, and suddenly it's just, game over pretty quickly. Think about this as kind of like 2 mana, deal 3 damage, draw a card, which is pretty good. And if it gets in a second time, well, that's bloody fantastic. Which normally ninjas don't if people want to stop it. Outside of that, we're instead of Thraben Charms, we're running some cast downs because it's just a premier removal spell. And then I haven't sorted the lands out yet, but essentially I think what we want to do is just go up on these, because this is based on the other build that we had there. So go up on these, and then probably what I'll do is just cut all of these. I think you'd probably still want to run like 2 of these, I'd say. And then you could probably run some Dark Soul Citadels because they're indestructible. It just makes things a little bit more easier. It's the same thing as running like an Ancient Dead, but it's just indestructible. So we'll just run a bit more of these. So we'll go up to the full amount of that. So with that, with Springleaf Drum, and it's pretty easy to get ahead. I still want to run this because I feel like blue's quite crucial in this build. So running ninjas and Metallic Rebukes and Thoughtcast and the Monitor, you want to be able to play all those spells. Sideboard, I think what we'll do as well is just cut all these out. And then, probably what I would say is we'd go up on that extra Rebuke because we can now. You could even look at probably running a couple more counter spells. And I'll probably even run something like an extra Relic in the sideboard, so we'll go up on that. And then I think we still want to keep stuff like that. So we add one more. And probably run like an extra cast down in the sideboard, so we'll do that as well. And it might be worth it to run something like Unexpected Fangs, but I'm also thinking it's probably better just to run these Blue Blasts anyway, just to get around burn. So that's those kinds of decks that I have been thinking of. So currently these are on my Mox Field if you want to have a look at them. I will be running them in the next couple of weeks or so once Magic Online gets all this stuff. I'm currently under 1,000 subs, so I can't really push to get any on any creator programs just yet, so I don't have early access to these cards yet. So I'll be playing them just like anyone else. So once they are available, I will be playing them. But these are the kind of places my brain's going with them. So let me know what you think about these decks. Let's chat in the comments and see if you have any updates before we even start jamming them online. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.